wonderful day and welcome. Another day, another weapon guide. Now is the last of the weapon guides, the last ranged weapon, and my favorite ranged weapon, the bow. It's one of my favorite weapons, and we're gonna take a look at what's happening here. So I'm gonna jump in the quest, and then we're gonna check everything out. Here we are for the last time on the weapon guides, inside the White Lake today again, featuring the bow. Before we now go into the controls and everything, we're gonna take a look at the equipment info first on the bow, because it is obviously different, just like the bow guns. If we go into status, equipment status, and then our gear, they will see all the information on the bow. Obviously, bows don't have sharpness, but other modifiers. Bows have attack, raw damage, and elemental damage, and they have a feature called arcs, which are important later. And on the third and fourth one, we have that one what we're looking for, and that is on the third one we have the type of attacks the bow has and what level they are. And then on the fourth one we have which coatings that bow can use. So now we're gonna dive into the moveset and everything, but for that we're gonna talk first about the overlay. So on the right side of the screen you can see now a controller overlay for the Xbox One and the PS4 controllers. This is there to visualize what I'm pressing on the screen, so if you have problems understanding me, or maybe you're not good at English that much, you can still see what I'm pressing for combo reasons and can then still repeat and do what I'm doing in these videos by yourself. For keyboard users, you simply just need to figure out what the hotkey does on your keyboard, what I'm pressing on the controller. So if I press the item button or the dodge button on the controller, just figure out what is the dodge button on my keyboard layout, and bam, you can do exactly the same stuff I show here. For the lack of, well, efficiency, we're not gonna call every time the Y and triangle and B and circle button, because these buttons are the core buttons pressed in a lot of combos, so we're gonna refer to them as main attack and side attack button instead of Y and B, so we don't need to say them 4 buttons every combo. Other buttons are usually more coherent and we don't need to name them specifically, but just for a heads up, those two will be named like that. Now we can dive into the bow. The bow is a ranged weapon, and when we looked at the equipment info, we saw there is different, well, attack types on the third information page, and that means that the arrows you shoot on different charge levels of the bow are influenced by that and determine what type that is. Because just like the bow guns, we have different ammo types. We have specific coatings which can enhance and apply effects to these attacks, but the normal attacks like pierce and spread shots, etc., these are the attack types like bow guns, where you shoot pierce, a shotgun bullet, etc. To unsheath your bow, it's very simple and traditional. You just press the main attack button. You can do it while standing still or while moving, but keep in mind, if you move and do it, then you automatically shoot the first level of your bow. So you need to be careful, because you can waste your coatings, which are limited in resource, which you don't want to do. Alright, with our bow unsheathed now, we do have the option to press the main attack button to simply just shoot arrows. Simple as that, plain and quick. We have also the option to hold down the button to consume stamina as long as we hold it, and then have a charged attack. The charge level goes up to 2, or if you have an armor skill, you have up to 3 charge levels. The more charge level you have, the stronger the arrow gets. But obviously it also takes more time to load, and you need to decide if you have the time to charge or not, if you don't have any special charge reduction skills, so keep an eye out on that. The type of arrow you shoot can change with the charge level, and that is determined by the bow itself. Different bows have different arrow types they can shoot. So if we're gonna disable the overlay real quick here, and then gonna look into the information under status, equipment, and then on your bow, on the third page you can see attack, charge level, and what type it has. 1, 2, 3. Number 1 is just if you shoot without the charge. 2 is charge number 1, 3 is charge number 2, and 4 is then charge number 3 when you have the skill. Under that numbers, you can see the type of arrow you're shooting with that bow, and then you have the number next to it, which is the level of that type of arrow. Higher the number, the stronger and better it is. So the ideal way to have this set up, or the best way to have, is like a high type level on the highest charge level you can have. There's 3 different arrow types we can have. There's first the RPD, which is the rapid arrow. This just means it is a vertical arrow lineup, and the higher the level, the more arrows you shoot with that, vertical line. Then we have the Pierce arrow, which we don't have right now, but I think it is PRC or something, a shortage. And the Pierce one is exactly acting how it sounds. It pierces through the monster and can hit multiple times. So you want to line these up through the monster. Higher levels, more piercing, multi-hits. So if you have a big monster, try to shoot along its body length and not like the width of the body length for maximum damage. Then the last one is the SPR, which is spread, and that is just instead of a vertical, you have a horizontal alignment of the arrows, and that's about it. So obviously if you have wide monsters, then you can use that arrow to maximum effect there. Then if we press the side attack button when our weapon is unsheathed, we do a melee attack. This can be chained up to 2 times. The specialty is though that this does cut damage and allows you to cut actually monster tails. Yeah, that's about it. It's really slow, the animation is not great, so you won't really be using this much, except probably get taking care of smaller creatures or going in when you did significant amount of damage to the tail or something and try to cut off the last HP of it. Also, I forgot the overlay really quick to turn on again, but before we do that, we're gonna check out coatings, because we're gonna go into the equipment menu again for a short minute. But let's see coatings. Coatings are special enhancements for your bow. Basically, you can turn your bow into a sleep bow, a paralysis, poison bow, or just straight up increase the damage. Each bow has its own set of coatings, and to check those you can just see in the equipment info of that bow on the last page. Hey, I have the access to power coating, poison coating, para coating, sleep coating in this regard. And if you are at like a shop, you can actually buy ammo there, and depending what bow you have equipped, there will be an arrow icon, like a bow icon on the ammo you can use with that bow. If there's no icon or an axe, then you can't use with whatever bow you have equipped. This is really nice how visual, and also works of course with your item box. If you have in the item box coatings, it will show you, yo, you can use this, or no, you can't. Same with the ammo for bow guns, by the way. I think I didn't mention this, but it's like a little quality of life visual, which I really like. We have 6 different coatings in the game, and this bow can use 4. Poison, paralysis, and sleep coating should be very self-explanatory. They do exactly what they say. 1 poisons the monster, 1 paralysis, 1 sleep. Same effect as status effects on melee weapons. Same thing. Power coating is just a raw damage enhancer. That's it. But it's pretty juicy, and this is probably your main coating you use a lot, because it's like a damage boost and more DPS, beats faster monster kills, and it's just better. Then we have 2 more coatings in the game, which is the explosion coating, which does fixed explosive damage. And then we have also impact coating, which I'm not exactly sure what it does. It does sound like it is more KO damage, but the description just says, roughly translated, you're more damage. And then you're thinking, wait, but power coating does the same. So there must be some other effect to that impact damage, and I'm not sure if this is just like the melee coating in the later games where you have like a close range coating, or if this is like enhancing the KO effect or something like that. I couldn't really test this because I didn't found a bow using it specifically. If anyone know about that, let me know in the comments. That's all the coatings we have access to. To equip these coatings, you have your ammo menu above the item bar, just like bow guns. So if you open your item menu to choose items with the X or B button for left and right, you can now have Y and A to choose top and down, as long as you hold down that item menu button. So here you can choose your coatings, but choosing these coatings doesn't equip equip them at all. You need to load them just like a bow gun. And if you loaded them, you can see that on the top left corner where you maybe noticed under the stamina bar there is an off like icon. This means you have no coating equipped. If you now load the coating, it will show you how much coatings you have left in that icon and visualizes you have still X amount. To load coatings, it's very simple. You press the main and side attack button when you have chosen your coating of choice, and you will get this little animation and it loads in the coating. As you can see now, the top left has the red file icon for the power coating, and if I shoot, it reduces by 1. So if I now switch the coating again and go on something else than the power coating, it will automatically unequip that coating, and we need to reload any coating we choose otherwise. So you can quick unload any coating you don't need for situations where you don't have good access to utilize the maximum potential of that coating, so you don't want to use it, you just switch out. Then you have also a quick load feature in Frontier, which allows you, if you're standing still, like you don't move at all, as soon as you unsheath your bow, you can immediately press the coating loading button, like the main and side attack button, to immediately load your coatings with a faster animation. This only works if you don't move, so if I move and then attack and then press the load button, nothing happens. So if I stand still now, press unsheath when I choose a coating like power coating, and then press the button immediately, I have a way quicker animation loading up. It's like a quick loading, which helps getting that a little bit in there faster, because yeah, the animation can be pretty long. But it also only works when you unsheath your bow, so it's very limited in mid-combat applications. Then you can also aim with the bow to see the trajectory of your arrows. Kinda like the aiming mode, the crosshair of the bow guns. When you press the R1 button and hold it, then you can see where you're shooting and how far the bow flies. This updates in real time, so if you charge your shots, it changes to whatever arrows you have and what level or change they have in size or effective range. While aiming like this, you can move, kinda similar to the third person movement on the bow guns, but you need to stand still to actually see the trajectory because you can't see them otherwise. And you can also just stand still and then just move in 360 degree around you, kind of like the first person version of the bow gun aiming, but you can still move while charging your bow. You just don't see the trajectory. You can move anytime you want and then start charging your bow and then just stand still or move and shoot whenever you want. It's way more flexible than the bow guns in this regard, because you have an easier way to switch between these first and third person view mode, I call them. Then you can also influence these options with the input options under bow camera type and aim angle reset. The aim angle reset, really quickly, is only 2 options wide, and the first one just resets every time when you aim the to the default lineup of the trajectory. So if I aim up and then leave and then go back into it, it resets the camera to the default point. If I change this now to type 2, then it will remember whatever I had last time. So if I do now aim up, then go out of it and then go back into it, it saves the aiming position. This is really helpful for flying monsters. If you attack flying monsters and they attack you back from flying or levitating, you can aim at it and then, oh, the monster attacks, you go out of it, out of the way, aim back, and then you can just keep where you're standing, and instead of just going from the default position always up and down, it's more convenient in quality of life. But then we also have the bow camera type, and similar to the bow gun camera type, we can switch between 5 types here to change the behavior of the camera when aiming. So if we have this on type 1, which is the default one, we have this zoom in over the shoulder view when you aim, where the camera pans and follows your character with your movement. If you set this now to type 2, on the other hand, then the camera is not zooming in to this third person over the head, and it doesn't automatically changes or moves with your character. No auto camera panning, and your character doesn't zoom in. Then on type 3 are we now. I can't see any difference to just the first type, to be honest. So if anyone knows what the exact difference is, I have no idea. It just looks the same. It's maybe just a bit like closer with camera wise, but I can't tell you for real right now. But other than that, I don't see any difference between this and type 1. But it must be, otherwise it won't be an option. Same for the type 4. I don't see any difference to, well, type 3 much. You can tell me if there's any difference, what is it exactly, because it looks exactly the same to me. And the last but not least is type 5, and it's actually the same as before, but the difference I saw is that the camera is automatically aligning to your camera direction. So if I'm looking to the camera as my character, but then go into aim mode, it automatically turns my character around and puts it in the reset position of that, well, angle, I guess, or the camera facing direction. So if my character looks left or right or back to me, and then I press the aiming button, it will reset forward all the time. So if I press the camera in this direction and then press the button, it always goes into the facing direction forward of the camera. That's the only difference I see. So not big changes like the bow gun on type 5, but it's a convenient thing. So next is the arc shots. Each bow has its own arc shot type. And arc shots are little mortar shots that have special effects depending what type you have. So if I shoot with this one here, then you can see something rains down off the sky. This is like bullets or little blades or something. And this is the arrow archetype. If you go to your equipment page and then look on the first page of your bow, you can see which arc they have. There's 4 different types: narrow, bomb, wide and slice, and they have different effects. The narrow archetype is a, well, narrow area focused shot, which you saw before, and it does KO damage and hits multiple times in that narrow area, which is very like specific focus to hit. So you need to position yourself to hit this like when the monster turns around or something. It's good for KO damage. That's about narrow. Then we have the bomb archetype, which shoots a single bomb which does massive KO damage and fixed explosion damage, as explosions usually do. Then we have the wide archetype, which shoots the same as the narrow, like a stone rain type of attack, but in a wide area. It's like a little circle area with 4 corner attacks, and that one hits like big monsters really hard, of course. Then we have the last one, which is the slice archetype, and that one does no KO damage and less damage than the other archetypes, but it has cut damage, even though it still counts as shot damage for hit zone calculations, which means if you shoot the slice arc on the monster, the calculations for the damage will still apply the shot hit zone calculations, so the damage of that, but it has the property of slicing, which makes it able to cut tails with that attack. So very handy as an option for the alternative of going into melee range and melee hitting. Bell shots are not influenced by charge level, but they can only be used if you are on the 2nd charge or higher. So if I now let the trajectory see here happening and then load my charge, you can see on the 2nd charge we have this red like cylinder area where it shows you where the bell shot is gonna land. You can put it closer or more further away, and then you just simply press while holding the charge the side attack button to release that bell shot. So you don't need to release that bell charge on the 3rd charge if you have that with the armor skill. You can release it as soon as it's available to get the benefit out of it. Also, if you are in a cave or something is obstructing that shot, I'm not sure if I can demonstrate this on this tree here, but if there's something obstructing the shot, yeah, it doesn't work on this tree. But if there's an obstacle that obstructs the shot going into the air, then that shot will be cancelled and not apply. I saw this happening. It is possible. It's just not possible here. But if you shoot and hit the ceiling on a cave, for example, then the shot will be cancelled and you lose that arc shot. One more thing which I forgot was the melee attack. You can also press the main and side attack button with the R1 button together when your weapon is like unsheathed to actually do a melee attack out of the stand and go into unsheathed mode. And also, while you're running, you can press and hold the main attack button to just start charging immediately as soon as you unsheath that bow. Then we also have a little, well, bunny hop, which you can chain indefinitely together as much stamina you have, because it costs stamina doing it, but it's a quick way to get distance to someone. And on top of that, you can also use it to cancel charging. So let's say you're in a situation where you're charging up an arrow, especially with power coating on, and you don't want to waste that power coating because the monster moved away and you can't really hit it. So you're charging the bow up and you're like, damn, the monster is like leaving area or whatever, but I don't want to waste the arrow. Then you can use the hop to cancel that charge and not waste that arrow, or that coating in this case, because arrows are infinite. And you simply just do this by doing a neutral dodge. So normally when you dodge, you can make a normal dodge roll like this. But if you have your weapon unsheathed and then just neutral dodge, like you don't press any input, you just do dodge button, you can do this infinite bunny hop as long as you have stamina. Very helpful to get distance quickly to a monster as long as you have stamina. Keep an eye on that stamina bar, otherwise it can get ugly quick. Then last but not least, we have critical distance. Critical distance you probably know from other Monster Hunter games or from the bow gun video, and bow also has critical distance, but other than the visual indicator that just shoots a white circle when you shot, you can see the critical distance on the bow before you shoot on the trajectory path visual when you aim and charge. You can see it's color-coded, it goes from yellow to red, and the green area is the critical distance. Perfect, like optimized area, so if you wanna shoot when the monster is in the green path of the trajectory to get the maximum damage. Red is obviously bad, because that is where the fall of damage is. And just like the light bow gun critical distance, this bow critical distance increases the shot of that arrows for 50%. Pretty good for DPS and very important to know. And that's it for Earth Style and the basics of the bow. And we're gonna switch over to Heaven Style, see what's up there, and I see you in the next quest. Now in Heaven Style, we just look at one change, and that is an upgraded melee attack. And that's sadly it for Heaven Style. This melee attack has a big hit stop regardless of the hit zone, but the specialty is that this melee attack has the possibility to apply coating buffs like paralysis or power to increase its damage. It does consume a file doing that, but you get the buff on that melee attack. So it's really helpful for increasing the damage of that melee for cutting tails, since it does cut damage. And it is like an upward slash, so we have also an easier time to just hit tails generally with this. Then with this slower animation from before, we have like this double hit. This is also a double hit, but faster in animation, so you have just an upgraded melee attack. Alright, this is it about the Heaven Style, and we're gonna go to Storm Style and see what's changing there. Alright, in Storm Style now we're gonna look at one additional change to Heaven Style. We keep the melee attack we had before, but now we also get the crouch stance. The crouch stance can be accessed by pressing the item button while holding the aim button for the trajectory path, and it makes you stand on the place you are. You can't move while being in this mode. You can turn around 360 degrees. The downside here is, on top of that, that the charges take 10% longer when you shoot from this mode. The benefit, on the other hand, is that the damage and the effectiveness of like status is increased with each charge. It goes up to 40%. The first charge is 20%. The second charge is 30% stronger. And then we have an additional charge which creates a special arrow. This arrow is the Aura arrow. This Aura arrow is a single powerful arrow that isn't influenced by the types. It isn't a pierce, it isn't a rapid, it isn't a spread arrow, so it can't be influenced by the damage, but it is powerful on its own and it can't bounce off monsters. Also, when you look at the trajectory path, you see that the critical distance on this arrow is large. The green path is huge and the red one is teeny tiny bit at the end. So you have really good options to shoot this arrow at the monster because it also flies straight. The other arrows are losing like height very quickly after shooting, but that arrow goes straight in. But again, the loading times are longer, so you need to decide a good position for this. Also, if you have explosive coating equipped, this special aura arrow will lose 40% of its distance traveled. So you lose a huge amount of distance, but it's something you need to like get used to use effectively because it needs a lot of like knowledge of the monster's movement and its attacks, and when there's an opening to have enough time to use this effectively. Besides, it is slow, the charge is slow, and well, the animations to get in and out are also pretty tricky, so be careful with this. You will probably want to combine this in multiplayer, especially with something like the stealth abilities which draw less aggro to you. Very helpful in that cases. But having up to 40% increased status element effectiveness and damage on elemental stuff, etc. can be very helpful for getting some good DPS in. That's it for Storm. We're gonna go to Extreme and I see you in the next quest. So now we're looking at Extreme style. The Extreme style is a high mobility style, which has for every weapon one distinguished mechanic, and that is be able to run with your weapon unsheathed. Normally when you run, you need to have your weapon, sheathed like this, and then you can press R1, the run button, to consume stamina to run. If you have your weapon out, you need to put it away to do that. With the Extreme style, on the other hand, you can now do this while your weapon is unsheathed and be way faster in the combat flow and keep attacking while stuff is happening. This is really good to chase down monsters and offers great mobility to dodge attacks and keep up with the, higher paced fights. Keep in mind this costs stamina as you won't normally run, and the run speed is determined by your weapon type. If you have a heavier weapon type like hammer, you will run slower than something like an SNS or a light bowgun. To get into the extreme running, you simply just double flick in the direction you go, and then you start running until you stop or do something else, because most extreme style have the option to do stuff outside or like inside of this running to, do special things. Some have special attacks, some has convenience options, like the bow. The first thing we look at is the extreme running charging. You can charge your arrows as you would normally while running, which is very helpful to keep up, damage while dodging or chasing down monsters. To note is that if you are already charging your bow and walk normally, you can't go into extreme running. This is not possible, so you need to do it before charging if you want the benefit of charging while running. Also, very important, if you run, it costs stamina, and if you charge, it also costs stamina. So if you combine both of these, you will have a higher stamina consumption as you will just do one or the other. So keep that in mind and have power juice or mega juice ready whenever you're planning on doing this on longer end fights. Also, stamina management skills, very highly recommend. Then the melee attack moved from side attack button to the kick button, the select button. This is for a reason, because the extreme style has a new shot, which is an aura arrow, just like the sniper shot and the crouching stance, but it is a special vertical one. The crouching stance is also still active and has the debuff removed of the charging time increase. So if you go now into the crouching stance, you can charge normally without the 10% penalty and get faster to the aura shot or the levels you want to shoot at, which is very, very nice. It makes it more attractive for the downside of being immobilized at all. The special vertical aura arrow you can now do with the side attack button. You can hold and charge this arrow just like you would with your normal charging, and you can hold it as long as your stamina holds up, because it costs stamina the longer you charge, and then you just release it whenever. As you see there, at a certain point when it flies, it goes straight up into the air, like straight up. It is just the same aura arrow as the normal one from the crouching, so it doesn't count as rapid, it doesn't count as spread or pierce. So skills that influence these damage types will not influence this aura damage. This aura arrow damage. The critical distance for this arrow is exactly at the point where it goes upwards. So you want to shoot this directly under the body of the monster, so the arrow just directly travels up as soon as it hits it. So you need to position yourself, since you can't move doing that. Be careful, and then you get the maximum damage out of it when you hit that critical distance correctly. And as you saw, if you aim, you can see the trajectory path just as you would with anything else on aiming. So this is very nice. Also, if you extreme run, you can directly go into this aura arrow shot. So if I run around and then press the side attack button, I can directly go into this charge vertical shot. Very nice. Then the last addition is a power shot. You maybe notice from, well, Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter 4, and Frontier has it too. On Extreme Style, you can shoot after charging at least once. With the main attack button, another arrow, which does damage depending on what charge level you had. The higher the charge level it was you shot, the stronger the power arrow will be. This consumes another coating, of course, so you need to decide if it's worth it to use or not, because it's just a second shot, which is very quickly coming out and just has the benefit of getting more DPS out if you use it correctly. But depending on the charge level, this gets weaker the further you go. If you have the first charge, you only get 85% damage on the power shot, the second charge only 75%, and the last one is 65% of the original power. But the benefit is you have a quick shot, which adds a lot of DPS in a quicker time. Yeah, for speedrunning and quicker DPS, it's probably like a good option to have, and I like it. But this is it for Extreme Style and the bow overall. We're gonna go back to the city, check out the active feature and tech skills, and beat Finito Danzo. Back in the city, we're gonna talk about the leftover stuff, and in terms of sigils that are noteworthy, there's two. Where one of them I didn't test myself and not sure how this exactly looks like, but I'm gonna mention it anyway. The first one is the Curve Change Sigil, which changes the archetype of your bow. You can change it to whatever arc shot or bell shot you want. If you have a narrow bow, change it to wide. You want a bombing one, change your bow to bomb. It is that simple. With sigils you can just swap out archetypes for your bow however you want and customize your bow a bit. And the second bow is a tech change sigil, which says it changes the crouching aura charge to a multi-hit pierce attack. Not sure how this exactly looks like, because I didn't found the sigil in-game yet for this video. So I apologize, and try it out, look how this looks like, and that's everything to Sigil Note worthy, outside of like just straight up motion value increase. Then we're gonna talk about the active feature, and the active feature is in the top left corner, next to the day-night season cycle clock. You can see active feature, and if these icons are red for the weapon type, then that weapon type has a special buff for the day. It's 24 server hours per active feature, but each weapon type gets a special buff. In the case of bow, that is 15% increased charge speed. So you charge 15% faster your arrows, which is very handy. Charge speed is always very good on bow, because you don't want to charge too long to get the maximum out of it. Then we talk about tech skills. And tech skills are special compound skills that you want to prioritize as your #1 skill when you do set specifics for weapon type. Tech skills are compound skills which include several skill effects in one skill, and with the skill limitations in this game, you definitely want to make use of that. So focus on that skill first. The tech skills are tailored compound skills with base stuff for the weapons, and then they have tailored skills for their weapon type. They have 4 positive ones, where one of them is a hidden version, and the negative one just reduces your damage by 20% with that weapon type. And then we have 3 positive ones and a hidden one. The hidden one is a very specific one, and on melee weapons this is completely useless at this point because it adds sharpness +1, which is not necessary anymore because you have access way easier to sharpness +1 from other skills like Sword God. But for range weapons you have the option to get 40% raw damage boost with this hidden version, which can be pretty helpful. But the condition here is that to activate the twin hidden option for this skill, which you maybe saw before in the SR settings, you were wondering what is twin hidden? Well, twin hidden is transforming your tech skill into this hidden version if you have met the conditions. To meet the conditions, you need to have all 4 colored hidden armors to activate this in your equipment box. And then you need to equip one of these 4 armors to activate twin hidden. So to actually use this, you are limited to a specific set of armors to use this twin hidden effect. It is very limited and very tricky to use, and most people don't bother with it. But if you can find a way to optimize the hidden set in your favor or in your liking, go ahead. You have 40% more extra damage on top of everything else. Neat, right? But the standard skills, the tech skill effects, we're gonna go over now, and that is the first level for the expert, which makes arrows no longer deflect when wielding a bow. So if you have a bow, the arrows don't bounce anymore. On the next level, the master level, you get 10% more damage and the, well, fencing effect for bows. And then on the last level, which is usually with a fancy name for each tech skill. In the case of bow, we have the Archery Demon. That is the super high grade earplugs. 30% more damage, raw damage, when having a bow equipped. The arrows can't deflect, of course. The power coding modifier is now 60%. And for goo weapons, it is 70%. And G-rank bows and evolution bows, like Raviente and special premium stuff, have the ability to shoot the arc shot on the first charge and not the second charge or the second charge level, but you can shoot the bell shot way earlier. And as we learned, the bell shot is not influenced by charge level, so you get the benefit of the arc shot way faster. And that's it for the bow video and the weapon guide series in general. I hope this video helped you with bow gameplay and maybe made you consider playing it or trying it out. I have some other plans for Frontier videos, including I wanted to do like an advanced guides-ish series, which I'm not sure what to populate with yet, but we will see. I maybe come up with something. But for now, the weapon guides did end. I have other series in mind for Frontier specific content beside the stuff I will do outside of Frontier. Like you probably saw me uploading other series before, which I started but didn't continue yet for reasons. But I will also upload that stuff, and Frontier stuff will also come again. I just need to prepare for that a bit. Other than that, I love you all. You have a wonderful evening. I'm gonna see you all at the next video, and I hope you all enjoy your evening. Good night, bye-bye, and Ima out. Love you all.